Bravo. Bravo.
So this is the local morning market, the public market, where locals come and sell fresh produce in the city of Novi Sad.
Hello.
And if you've gotten a sense already, the people here
Smile.
well, they smile and they come across as happy people. This looks like where... Oh, that's cheese!
A lot of cheese.
A lot of fresh cheese actually. This reminds me so much of Mumbai. That's a lot of spices and pickle stuff. I have no idea what this is, but it reminds me a lot of snacks. Well, just a little more. And this is where we can get some burek, which is very, very native to people here. That's the morning local scenes in Novi Sad.
It's okay. Low.
Welcome back to my channel. I'm Parampara and I really hope that if you're here, you've already subscribed to my channel. If you haven't, please subscribe to my channel. Today, I am in my 29th country that I've traveled to. I'm in Serbia. This is our second trip this year. And wow, it's like in the first 10 days of the year, we've already traveled twice, I think. Yeah, and we do have a lot of travels lined up for at least the first 5 months of the year, and I'm very excited for it. That's my dear darling husband, who needs no further introduction,
Of course.
because you'll keep seeing him in this video. But as I was saying, we are in Serbia, and honestly we didn't know too much as to what to expect. We just saw that, you know, there were buses available from Vienna, and we had never been to Serbia before. From whatever we'd heard of it or whatever we'd read about it, it seemed pretty interesting, given their history, the cultural amalgamation. And I mean, I think apart from Croatia, we haven't really covered anything in this region. So it was exciting, it was a good prospect, and without thinking too much, we were like, let's do this. And here we are. Today is actually our second day here. We reached Novi Sad yesterday by bus from Vienna, and it was rainy all day. I don't know what is this luck we have with places, that the day we reach there, the first day is always raining. And fortunately, it stopped raining a little before we actually got out this morning, and we had coffee. I had Turkish coffee, which was so good. And yes, today the plan is to explore as much of Novi Sad as we can, because tomorrow by afternoon we'd be headed to Belgrade, where we'll be spending the majority chunk of our time in Serbia. Not a lot, just 3 days, but that's pretty much the window we had between my university lectures and presentations. So we were like, let's not wait for a bigger window, let's just get going and let's travel the way we want to. And so far, the first impressions of Novi Sad would be, it reminds me so much of Mumbai. Call it the lighting, the structure of the city, the chaos, but the liveliness, the way how everything's, you know, really just open even after 8 p.m. Like last night we literally ordered in food at like 10:30 p.m. and
your food order came at 11:30. So
yes, and
things were open till then.
yeah, I mean, given that we're living in Austria now, this kind of things, this kind of behavior is kind of alien to us in Europe, and we're happy that we're getting to experience this. This feels so much like home. Yesterday I had really good shawarma at Studio Shawarma, because if we're unlikely to cover it in our trip again, so leaving that recommendation is important. There's a place called Studio Shawarma in Novi Sad which has great falafel sandwiches and chicken shawarma, so you have to try it out if you're here. And we also went to this really popular place amongst locals. It's called The Loft. It's got many branches across the city, so that's a nice place to meet up with people, just go hang out, grab a coffee or coffee-based drinks. That also was an interesting visit. I have a few more places apart from the attractions in the city to check out, and I will keep you guys posted. Once again, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and let's explore Novi Sad. You see there, that is the fortress. I'm gonna before I actually say the name, I'm gonna practice saying it, but it's one of the key fortresses that was built in Novi Sad during the Austro-Hungarian Empire, before the Turks came here. And that's where we're going to cross that entire bridge, and that's where we're going to go. And this, of course, here, it's like our mothership river in Europe. This is the Danube. It's like wherever we go, whether we go to Czech, whether we go to Hungary, whether we are in Vienna, whether we have come to, even if after we've come to Serbia, we are along the lines of the Danube River or the Donau River, or however they say it in different countries, different dialects, but that's where we're going first.
Are we hiking?
So another thing with Novi Sad, I don't know if it's gonna be the same with Belgrade as well. The Google Maps don't perfectly work here, particularly in terms of transport. Yeah, you will get no directions.
You will not find anything related to public transport in Novi Sad on Google Maps.
Also, almost all the labels of shops, destinations of buses, everything is in Serbian,
which is obvious.
It's very ambitious of you to think that you can read it. I mean, you can follow the patterns, but that's about it. You can't
read. I mean, Cyrillic alphabets, you really can't.
But that's that. On the other hand, the positive side is that
you get to explore stuff.
Also, almost every person we've met can speak in English.
Yeah, and they start in English.
So you have to do the most old school way to seek help. Seek help by talking to people. And that definitely works.
Yep.
Rest, it's up to you to explore.
See, we are exploring currently because we didn't know where to go. But the map says
I don't
maybe
think-
on this side,
I don't
maybe.
think we can trust the map
I mean
completely, but I think
Yeah.
we're getting somewhere.
Yep. I mean, we're getting to the top, and that is the whole point of coming here. So let's keep walking. Let's keep exploring.
Happily.
सुबह सुबह इतना मॉर्निंग वॉक कौन कराता है भाई?
Maybe 12 बज रहे हैं।
दोपहर को इतना वॉक कौन कराता है? वो भी खाली पेट, हमने सिर्फ कॉफ़ी पी है, नाश्ता नहीं किया है.
अच्छा लंच।
फीड मी.
You are saying that?
Yeah. No way, we don't.
Let's see if we can run.
No. Full drone shot.
You see that bridge there? That's the entire stretch that we walked. We were right there on the other side by the banks, and then we walked this entire bridge. Walked quite a lot, as you saw, to finally come up here to get this view. Now this is an interesting place. This gives you one of the best views of the city. There is an obsession of love locks, as you can see, so that is another interesting aspect. I can't tell how interesting that aspect is, but it is, given the number of locks that are already here. And then there is this clock, as they call the drunken clock, the stories of which we heard yesterday at the tourism office. So I'm going to talk a little about that. Now, as you can see, so let's start with what. So the actual time right now is 12:24 p.m. and if you see the clock, you'd be surprised as to why is the long hand of the clock, which we normally use for minutes, is actually towards 12, whereas the short hand is towards the minutes, right? Basically, the long hand in a regular clock is supposed to be the minutes hand, and the short one is supposed to denote the hours. However, there is the story that the river that you can see, that had a lot of sailors and fishermen passing by, and they would refer to this clock to check the time. And because of that, for them what really mattered was the hour that it was and not the minutes. So to make it convenient for them, they made sure that the long hand, which was more distinctly visible, denotes the hours instead of the minutes. Now that is quite interesting. The other aspect that was told, potentially a more scientific aspect, is that the clock is not accurate and it works slower in winter, and like it's faster in summer, and that is potentially because of the use of iron, which happens to expand and shrink during these seasons. So that automatically impacts the movement of the clock. Both these stories are pretty interesting, but for most people who come here, this is just a drunken clock. Which story do you think is more plausible? Actually, both of them are, but which one do you like more? You can see this is like a four-sided clock, so the plausibility truly makes sense. And that's so on this side of the city, like I was saying, the city of Novi Sad is divided by the Danube River, and what can be considered the larger part of the city where you find the modern civilization, or even for that matter, you know, where the the old town square and everything is, that's on that side of the city. This side is basically the Petrovardin fortress, and everything that is a part of the fortress is basically here. And yeah, so I think after we explore this some parts of the fortress, we will head back to the main center, grab some food and enjoy more of Novi Sad. By the way, as I was saying minutes ago, what are your views on these signs of love? I mean, it's really interesting, to be honest, but I really don't get the obsession. I mean, if you look at this whole arena, all the barriers are actually covered with locks, and not just like one or two locks, there's like so many of them, so many of them. Have you ever put a lock, by the way? Just curious, have you ever put a lock, or do you want to put a lock? Please tell me in the comments, because this is a rather interesting display or commitment of love. So these outer walls or sorts of the fortress have been built by the Austro-Hungarians, and Pariche just pointed out a very interesting fact about this. The color scheme and the style of architecture truly resembles Austria's most important historical monument, the Schönbrunn Palace. I mean, if you compare, well, I'm going to try putting in a picture here. If you compare right from the color scheme to the style of architecture, there are like way too many similarities here. So this is the inner part of it, but the outer part of the fort, like the complex, is pretty much like every medieval European castle, like a proper castle where you can see stones and there's a tower and there's a view of the city, which absolutely makes sense because the fortresses were pretty much for the war purposes. So that definitely holds a lot of ground and logic to why they were so. And this is the view of the Danube, which is right, like the fortress is basically right on the banks of the river.
And we are right on the bank of the fortress. Bangkok.
Are you happy with your puns?
Yeah.
Are you guys happy with his puns? Because I don't think I am. You know, this also reminds me very faintly of another city.
Which one?
I mean, if you see the semblance of bridges, I feel like it reminds me a little bit of Istanbul.
Really?
Yeah, because Istanbul also has that kind of a bridge. Like, there is a river that flows through the city, so they've got all these bridges to connect the two sides of the city. But again, not just Istanbul, there are many cities which are an example of this. We've not seen this so much in Vienna, but I'm sure there are other cities that we'll eventually, when we're not filming this vlog, we will come to realize or remember. So when you come to the Petrovardin fortress in Novi Sad, there's a range of things that you can do there. There's restaurants and cafes that you can eat from, and there are a lot of galleries, like art galleries and museums inside the fortress. I think that's one of the key purposes that they have been serving for a while now. And apart from that, as you saw, there's the drunken clock and just a lot of beautiful views of Novi Sad that you can get from this fortress. So it completely depends on you how much time you want to spend here. There's one last stop at this fortress that we intend to make, since we also want to cover a lot of the main city. That is, we're going to try finding a labyrinth, or there used to be catacombs in here. So they said that it's possible to maybe go through about like 800 meters to a kilometer of those, because it got really difficult for people and they used to get lost, so they had to shut it down. I don't know if we can find the entrance to it or whether it's still operational, but we're going to give it a go. If we're successful, that's what our last stop over here is going to be, and then we're going to head back to the main city.